She mistook a billionaire heir for the intern delivering files. But that mistake changed everything. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The low hum of printers and the click of keyboards filled the 27th floor of Cole Industries. The air smelled faintly of coffee and new paper, the usual perfume of a busy corporate morning in Manhattan. Maya Lin Tran hurried across the glossy marble floor, a stack of files pressed against her chest. Her heart raced as she balanced a coffee cup on top, whispering to herself, "Do not spill this, Maya. Not on your first day." Her reflection flashed in the mirrored wall of the elevator lobby. The hem of her thrifted skirt was slightly uneven. Her heels were worn down, and a loose strand of hair framed her anxious face. She took a breath that trembled. For her, this internship was not just another job. It was rent, groceries, and maybe, if she was lucky, a small chance to prove she could belong in a world that had never belonged to her. When the elevator doors slid open, a young man stood inside holding a folder marked Executive Delivery. His sleeves were rolled, his tie slightly crooked, and there was a quiet confidence about him. Maya assumed immediately, of course, he must be another intern, probably the one delivering files for the morning meeting. "Oh, perfect timing," she said, stepping in. "You are the intern for department design, right? Can you help me carry these to the conference room?" Room 12. Mission. Ethan Cole blinked in surprise. He had walked into the building unnoticed, hoping to observe how employees treated new hires. But this misunderstanding was new. The billionaire heir to Cole Industries was now being ordered around by a nervous intern who clearly thought he was one of her peers. For a moment, he considered correcting her. Then he saw the way she clutched the papers, how determined her small shoulders looked under that worn blazer, and something about her honesty disarmed him. "Sure," he said with a small smile. Conference room 12. The two walked down the hallway, Maya leading the way, her voice rushing to fill the silence. "I am sorry for bossing you around like that. It is just, the senior manager hates delays, and I do not want to mess up my first day." Ethan balanced the folders easily. "No worries. First days can be rough." She gave him a quick glance, surprised by his calm tone. "You seem too relaxed for an intern," she teased. He chuckled softly. "Maybe I have done this before." They entered the conference room. The long table gleamed beneath pendant lights. Maya set the files down, arranging them carefully, while Ethan placed his folder beside hers. Her phone buzzed with a message from the supervisor. "Running late, start without me," she groaned quietly. "Great. Guess it is just us." Although the faint rhythm of rain tapped against the wide window. Maya turned to the man she still believed was another intern. "So, what brings you here? College credit? Career change?" Ethan leaned against the table, his gaze thoughtful. "You could say, I am here to learn what really matters in this place." "That sounds deep," she laughed, shaking her head. "Most of us are just trying to survive the week." Their eyes met for a brief, unguarded second. Outside, thunder rolled above the city. Inside, something quiet shifted between them, an invisible thread, fragile but real. Neither of them knew that this tiny misunderstanding, born from exhaustion and rain and one mistaken assumption, was the moment everything would begin to change. As Maya gathered her notes, she scribbled a small post-it label for the presentation. Team Maya and Ethan, Draft 1. She stuck it on the top file, smiling at her neat handwriting. Ethan glanced at it, memorizing the way her name looked beside his. Later, he would keep that small post-it inside his notebook, long after the meeting ended, long after she discovered who he really was. But for now, he simply said, "You did great, Maya," and she smiled, unaware that the intern standing beside her owned the company that could one day change her life forever. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the narrow blinds of Maya's small apartment in Queens. The room smelled faintly of instant coffee and acrylic paint. She sat at a tiny kitchen table, laptop open, surrounded by sketches taped to the wall. Rent was due in 2 days. Her mother's hospital bill lay folded beside her cup, the numbers smudged by a coffee ring. Maya rubbed her eyes, whispering, "One step at a time, Maya. One step." Her phone buzzed. A text from the office. "Reminder, morning meeting at 9. Do not be late." She glanced at the clock. 8:15. She tied her hair into a loose ponytail, grabbed her tote bag, and dashed out the door. The elevator was out of order again, so she ran down 5 flights, her heart pounding by the time she reached the street. The October air bit her cheeks as she hurried to the subway, clutching her sketchbook tight against her chest. Back at Cole Industries, the 27th floor gleamed in the morning light. The same polished marble, the same rush of suits and heels. But this time, Maya walked with a little more confidence. The intern she had met yesterday, Ethan, was already at the design station, sorting files with practiced ease. "Morning," she said, trying not to sound too cheerful. He looked up, smiling. "Morning, partner." The word made her pause. Partner. She had not felt like anyone's partner in a long time. She slid into the chair beside him, opening her notebook. "The senior manager wants the presentation board updated by noon. If we finish early, maybe I can actually eat lunch today." Ethan nodded, half amused. "You skip meals often?" "Only when life gets expensive," she said lightly, then regretted the honesty. He studied her for a second, his expression softening. "You are pretty dedicated for an intern." "Dedicated or desperate," she replied, forcing a laugh. "Either works." The hours passed quickly. Maya adjusted design layouts while Ethan handled client feedback. His calm focus surprised her. He never bragged, never acted superior, just listened, and quietly made things better. When the printer jammed, he fixed it without complaint. When Maya's pen ran out of ink, he handed her another before she even asked. By noon, their project draft looked alive, clean lines, warm tones, and little details that made it human. Maya stared at the mock-up on the screen, her voice barely a whisper. "It is the first time my idea looks real." "It deserves to be real," Ethan said. She glanced at him, unsure how to respond. Before she could speak, the supervisor entered, brisk and polished, carrying a tablet. "Team presentation at 2. Maya, you lead. Ethan, stay close in case she stumbles." "Yes, ma'am," Maya said quickly, hiding her nerves. When the supervisor left, she exhaled. "Lead? I was not ready for that." Ethan smiled. "You will be fine. Just tell them why you care about it." "No." That afternoon, the conference room filled with quiet tension. Maya stood at the front, palms sweating, while a line of executives waited with polite indifference. She spoke about well space, a design that blended comfort and efficiency, an office that made people feel human again. Her voice shook at first, then steadied as she saw Ethan in the corner, giving her a small nod. When she finished, there was a pause. Then a slow clap from one of the board members. "Simple concept," he said, "but honest." Others nodded in agreement. After the meeting, Maya sat on the edge of her chair, trying to breathe. Ethan walked up beside her and whispered, "Told you so." Her lips curved into a disbelieving smile. "I did not faint. That is progress." He laughed softly. "You did more than survive. You stood out." As the day ended, the sky outside turned a bruised shade of orange and pink. Most employees rushed out, but Maya stayed behind to clean up the workspace. Ethan lingered near the window, hands in his pockets, watching the city lights flicker on. "You should head home," he said. "It is late." She shook her head. "If I leave, someone else will take credit for my slides. Better safe than sorry." He hesitated, then offered, "I can help." "You have done enough," she said, gathering folders. "Go enjoy your evening, intern." He smiled at the teasing. "I will, only if you promise to eat something." "I will grab a sandwich on the way," she lied. When the office finally emptied, Maya looked out at the city stretching far below. The reflection in the glass showed a tired young woman with a dream too big for her pocket. She whispered to herself, "Tomorrow, I will do better." Across the room, Ethan lingered by the elevator doors, watching her quietly before stepping inside. For the first time in years, the heir of Cole Industries felt a reason to stay late at work, and it had nothing to do with business. The following morning came with the gray chill of early November. Rain streaked across the tall windows of Cole Industries, turning the city outside into a watercolor blur. Inside, the design floor buzzed softly with printers and murmured conversations. Maya sat at her desk, her hair slightly damp from the walk through the drizzle. Sketchbook open beside her keyboard. Ethan arrived a few minutes later, holding 2 cups of coffee. He placed one near her without a word. The cup was the kind she never bought cinnamon latte from the cafe across the street, the expensive one. She looked up in surprise. "You did not have to." He smiled. "You earned it. Yesterday's presentation was yours." "Thank you," she said quietly, fingers curling around the warm cup. She hesitated, then opened her sketchbook, flipping through pages filled with pencil drawings of workspaces, parks, and dreamlike windows. "I do not usually show this to anyone," she said, voice soft. "It is just something I do to stay sane." Ethan leaned closer, studying the details, the small plants drawn in corners, the sunlight painted in every room. "These are beautiful," he said. "It is not just design, it feels alive." Maya laughed, a little embarrassed. "It is just a sketchbook." He shook his head. "No, it is a vision. You draw spaces where people would actually want to exist." She blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity in his voice. No one had ever said that to her. Her old boss once told her she was too emotional for design. But here was this quiet intern, or so she thought, looking at her drawings like they mattered. Her phone buzzed with a message from the supervisor. "Client meeting postponed until Monday." She sighed with relief. Finally, a weekend. "Any plans?" Ethan asked. Maya shrugged. "Probably laundry. Maybe a trip to the park if the rain stops." "You?" He smiled faintly. "I have some things to handle. Family business." "Oh. Must be serious," she said playfully. "You talk like a man with a secret." Ethan met her eyes for half a second too long. "Maybe I am." The moment stretched, quiet but charged, broken only when another intern walked by and asked Maya about a report. She turned away, cheeks warm, pretending to organize her desk. By late afternoon, the rain had slowed to a mist. Maya finished early and decided to stay behind to clean up. She was halfway through stacking folders when the lights flickered, then dimmed. The office fell into a faint golden glow from the emergency lamps. Ethan stepped out of the conference room, holding his phone flashlight. "Power glitch. Elevator is out." "Perfect," she said with a half laugh. "Guess we are stuck." He joined her near the window, where the fading daylight brushed against the glass. "Could be worse," he said. "At least there is coffee." They sat on the floor beside the window, sipping what remained of their drinks while the city below shimmered in puddles. The quiet between them was not awkward this time. It was soft. Almost peaceful. Maya glanced at him. "So, Mr. Secret, what did you do before you joined as an intern?" He looked at his hands. "A little of everything. I worked overseas for a while, learning how companies really run." "That sounds impressive," she said. "You must have been good at it." "Oh, maybe too good," he murmured. "It is easy to forget people when you only look at numbers." She frowned slightly, sensing weight behind his words. "You sound like someone who has lived 2 lives." "Maybe I have," he said quietly, meeting her gaze. For a moment, she forgot where she was, the hum of the city, the rain against the glass, the soft blue light on his face. It felt like the world had paused. Then the power snapped back on, the bright fluorescent lights returning too suddenly. Maya blinked, disoriented, and stood quickly. "Well, that was a nice break from capitalism," she joked, trying to mask her nerves. Ethan smiled, though his expression lingered with something deeper. "You are full of surprises, Maya." "So are you," she replied before she could stop herself. When she reached home that night, her apartment felt smaller than usual. She placed the coffee cup on her shelf beside her sketchbook, tracing the company logo on the side. A smile tugged at her lips as she remembered the quiet moment by the window. Then reality pressed back. Rent, bills, deadlines. The warmth of the day dissolved into exhaustion. Across town, in a penthouse high above the city, Ethan stood by his own window, holding a single sticky note in his hand, the one that read, "Team Maya and Ethan, Draft 1. The city lights reflected in the glass as he whispered, "You have no idea how much you are changing things, do you?" He placed the note carefully inside a drawer and turned back toward his phone, where his father's message blinked on the screen. Board meeting on Monday. You are expected to present the new well space concept. Ethan exhaled, torn between pride and guilt. She thought he was just another intern. And for now, that was the only truth he could live with. Monday arrived with crisp sunlight and a pulse of anxiety. The lobby of Coal Industries buzzed louder than usual. A new client proposal meant everyone was on edge. Maya hurried through the glass doors, clutching her sketchbook, heart beating fast. She had barely slept, replaying the memory of that quiet evening with Ethan, the rain, the laughter, the strange comfort she had felt beside him. On the 27th floor, Ethan was already there, standing by the coffee machine, phone pressed to his ear. His expression was calm but distant. "Yes, I understand. Tell the board I will handle it personally," he said before hanging up. When he saw Maya, his face softened. "Big day?" She laughed nervously. "Bigger than my rent payment. The senior manager wants me to sit in on the client briefing. That is practically Mount Everest for an intern." He smiled, genuine and steady. "You will do great. You always do." The morning rushed by in a blur of charts, layouts, and whispered instructions. Maya and Ethan worked side by side, finishing mock-ups and printing reports. When lunch came, she opened a small sandwich wrapped in foil, while Ethan leaned against the window with a salad he clearly had no intention of eating. "So," she said between bites, "what kind of family business makes you this good at handling chaos?" He hesitated, eyes tracing the skyline. "Let us just say my family has been in business for a long time. Too long." "That sounds like money," she teased. "Maybe you are secretly rich." He laughed softly. "Would that change how you see me?" Maya thought for a moment. "Maybe a little, but only because I cannot imagine someone rich choosing to work here for fun. Maybe some people just want to understand how things really work," he said. She nodded, smiling. "If you figure it out, let me know." 12. Later that afternoon, they were asked to deliver the updated portfolio to the client downtown. It was her first external meeting, and nerves fluttered in her stomach as they stepped into the elevator together. Ethan carried the presentation board. She held the sketchbook in case the client wanted additional drafts. Outside, the city was bright and sharp, every taxi horn echoing between skyscrapers. They walked quickly, talking through final details. At one point, Maya tripped on the curb, and Ethan caught her arm just before she fell. Their eyes met for a second too long. She laughed, embarrassed. Graceful, as always. "You are fine," he said, still holding her arm. His hand lingered for a moment before he let go. The meeting went smoothly. Maya spoke with quiet confidence, explaining how open spaces and natural light improved productivity. The clients were impressed. As they left the building, one of the senior executives shook Ethan's hand and said, "Send my regards to your father." Maya blinked, confused. Ethan's polite smile never faltered, but his jaw tightened. "Of course," he replied quickly, steering her toward the exit. Outside, the wind caught her hair as she stared at him. "He knows your father?" Ethan hesitated. "It is complicated. You are full of mysteries, Ethan," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "And you are brave enough to ask them." They rode back in silence, but something had changed. A tension hung between curiosity and truth, between what she thought she knew and what he could not yet reveal. That evening, as Maya left the building, she glanced back through the glass wall. Ethan was still inside, standing by the window again, phone pressed to his ear. She could not hear his words, but the look on his face conflicted. Weary stayed with her all the way home. In her apartment, she opened her sketchbook and added a new drawing, a tall figure by a window, city lights stretching beyond. She titled it, "The Man Who Sees Too Much." Across the city, Ethan looked down at his phone, reading another message from his father. "Board expects full reveal at the charity gala Friday night. It is time people remember who you are." He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the secret between them. For the first time, the life he had always known began to feel like a lie he no longer wanted to live. Friday arrived faster than either of them expected. The office hummed with anticipation for the upcoming charity gala, the event that defined coal industry's public image every year. Maya had never been to anything like it. For interns, it was optional, but the senior manager insisted she attend to network. She had borrowed a simple navy dress from her neighbor, and spent the subway ride rehearsing polite things to say if anyone actually spoke to her. When she stepped into the ballroom that night, she almost forgot to breathe. Crystal chandeliers scattered light across marble floors, and a live quartet played near the grand staircase. Waiters moved through the crowd with trays of champagne. Maya felt small but tried to smile, clutching her invitation like a ticket into another world. "Wow," she whispered to herself. "I definitely wore the wrong shoes." A familiar voice answered from behind her. "You look perfect." She turned. Ethan stood a few steps away, dressed in a dark suit that fit like it was made for him because, she would soon learn, it was. Her heart skipped. "You clean up well, intern." He smiled, hands in his pockets. "You are still calling me that? Until you tell me your secret," she teased. "Maybe tonight," he said quietly. "Maybe it is time." "Oh." Before she could respond, a voice echoed through the hall as the host took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us in supporting the city's future innovators. Please welcome our keynote guest, Ethan Cole, heir of Cole Industries." The applause rose like a wave. Maya froze, her breath catching as every spotlight turned toward the man standing beside her. Ethan's expression was unreadable as he stepped forward, shaking hands, smiling for photographs, addressing the crowd with composed ease. The words blurred in her ears. Heir, leadership, innovation, Cole family legacy. She could not move. The man she had eaten lunch with, laughed with, confided in was not an intern. He was the heir of the entire company. People around her whispered, some glancing at her, recognizing her face from the design department. One woman murmured, "That must be the intern who keeps following him around." The words burned. Ethan finished his speech, applause filling the room. When he turned, his eyes searched for her. But she was already walking away, her pulse loud in her ears. She reached the hallway outside the ballroom, the air cooler, emptier. "Maya, wait," Ethan called, following her. She spun to face him. "You lied to me." "I never meant to," he said quickly. "I just wanted to know what the company really felt like. I wanted to see how people treated someone without the Cole name." "And you used me for that?" Her voice trembled. "Was I just another project? A test?" "No," he said, stepping closer. "You were the only real thing I found here." She shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. "You could have told me the truth. You should have trusted me." "I was going to. Tonight." "Then you waited too long." "Oh." Maya turned and walked toward the exit, her heels clicking sharply against the marble. Behind her, Ethan stood motionless under the chandelier's glow, applause still echoing faintly from the ballroom. Outside, the cold night air bit at her skin as she hurried toward the street. Her phone buzzed with messages, colleagues sharing photos from the gala. But she did not look. She climbed into the nearest taxi, her reflection in the window blurring as the city lights passed. Back in the ballroom, Ethan slipped a hand into his pocket and pulled out a small sticky note creased and worn from being carried too long. The words Team Maya and Ethan, Draft 1, stared back at him. He closed his hand around it, the noise of the celebration fading into silence. Somewhere across the city, Maya placed her sketchbook on the table, closed it carefully, and whispered, "I believed in the intern, not the heir." Then she turned off the light. The following week moved like a blur. Maya kept her head down at work, avoiding eye contact, pretending the gala had never happened. The whispers in the hallway told her otherwise. Every time she passed a group of employees, conversations paused. Someone had leaked photos her standing beside Ethan, laughing during the charity event. The captions online turned the moment into a rumor. "Intern caught flirting with the heir." She deleted her social media that night. The comments hurt more than she wanted to admit. People she barely knew called her names, accused her of chasing money. The quiet admiration she had earned for her hard work vanished overnight. On Wednesday, she was called into the senior manager's office. The woman's tone was icy. "Maya, you understand this company's image is delicate. Until this situation with Mr. Cole settles, it would be best if you take a leave of absence." Maya's hands shook as she gathered her things. "You mean I am being suspended?" Call it what you want," the manager said. "It is for everyone's benefit." She walked out with her box of belongings, heart heavy. The elevator ride down felt endless. When the doors opened in the lobby, Ethan was waiting. Maya, please, he said, stepping forward. Let me explain. She didn't look at him. I have heard enough explanations this week. It was never supposed to go like this, he said quietly. Someone from my father's circle leaked that photo to hurt me, and now it is hurting you. Then fix it, she snapped. You have the power to fix everything, remember? You are Ethan Cole, heir of Cole Industries. You can make this disappear. I can clear your name, but it will look like I am protecting you because of… He stopped himself. Because of what? She demanded. Because I care about you, he said finally. Her breath caught. For a moment, she saw the same sincerity from the office nights, from the quiet coffees and shared smiles. But it felt hollow now, drowned beneath lies and titles. You do not get to say that, she whispered. Not after you lied about everything. Maya. She stepped back. Do not follow me. Ethan froze as she turned away, walking out into the gray drizzle. The revolving doors closed between them with a soft thud. That evening, Maya sat on the floor of her small apartment, surrounded by her sketches. The rain tapped against the window, matching the ache in her chest. She reached for her sketchbook and found the page she had once shown him, the one filled with warm light and open windows. Her dream office. Her dream life. It all felt impossible now. Across the city, Ethan stood in his father's office, surrounded by portraits of previous generations, men in suits staring down from their gilded frames. His father's voice was cold. You let an intern compromise this family's reputation. Fix it. Distance yourself before the shareholders demand your resignation. Ethan clenched his jaw. She did nothing wrong. She is a distraction, his father said sharply. Do what is necessary. When Ethan left the room, he felt the weight of two worlds pressing against him, the empire he had inherited and the woman who had reminded him what it meant to care. Outside, the rain turned heavier, streaking against the glass of his car window. He whispered to himself, You are not a mistake, Maya. But the city swallowed the words whole, leaving only silence. Days turned into weeks. The city moved on, but Maya could not. Her internship had quietly ended, and no new company would call her back. Her name was tangled with scandal now, linked forever to Ethan Cole. Every morning she scrolled through job boards until her eyes burned. Every night she sketched by the dim light of her desk lamp, trying to silence the thoughts that would not stop coming. One evening, as the sun bled into the skyline, there was a knock at her door. When she opened it, Ethan stood there, soaked from the rain. His suit jacket clung to him, his hair damp, his expression exhausted. Maya, please, just 5 minutes, he said. She hesitated, then stepped aside wordlessly. He entered the small apartment, glancing at the sketches pinned to the wall, the same ones he had once praised. I miss this place, he said softly. It feels real. Maya crossed her arms. You should not be here. People will twist this into another story. I do not care what they say anymore. He met her eyes. You were right. I should have trusted you from the beginning. I have spent the last 2 weeks trying to fix things, but my father will not let it go. She sighed. Ethan, you do not have to fix me. You just have to let me move on. He shook his head. You do not understand. There is more. My father's advisor was the one who leaked those photos. They wanted to use you to push me out, to make me choose between protecting the company and protecting you. Maya froze. Why tell me this now? Because I am done letting them decide who I am, he said firmly. Tomorrow, I am walking into that board meeting, and I am telling them everything. The truth about the leak. About us. Her voice trembled. You will lose everything. Then I will finally know what everything is worth, he said quietly. Maya looked away, torn. A part of her still loved him. Another part was afraid to believe again. Ethan, you come from a world where people like me are invisible. Even if you tell the truth, they will never see me as anything but a mistake. Then let me prove them wrong, he said. For a long moment, neither spoke. The rain outside softened, the only sound between them. Finally, Maya took a small step forward and handed him a page from her sketchbook. It was a design titled The Art of Renewal. A space filled with sunlight and hope. I drew this when I thought you were gone, she said. It reminded me that light still exists after a storm. But it is not yours to fix, Ethan. It is mine. He took the page carefully, eyes shining with emotion. Then let me earn my place in it. She shook her head gently. You cannot earn forgiveness. You live it. He nodded. misunderstanding. There was nothing more to say. He turned toward the door, pausing only once to look back at her. "For what it is worth," he said softly, "meeting you was the best mistake I ever made." When he was gone, Maya stood in the doorway, the rain's faint rhythm echoing his words. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Then prove it." Across the city, Ethan returned to his penthouse, determination hardening in his chest. Tomorrow, he would stand before the board not as his father's heir, but as a man ready to fight for truth, no matter the cost. The next morning, the boardroom at Coal Industries felt colder than usual. Sunlight cut through the tall glass windows, glinting off polished wood and steel. Every seat was filled executives, shareholders, and Ethan's father at the head of the table, his expression sharp as glass. Ethan stood near the center, calm but resolute. "Before we begin," he said, "there is something I need to say." His father's tone was stern. "Ethan, this is not the time." "It is exactly the time," Ethan replied. "For weeks, a young designer's name has been dragged through the mud for something she did not do. The photos, the rumors they were planted to humiliate her and discredit me. The person behind it works in this very building." A murmur rippled through the room. Ethan laid a folder on the table. Inside were printed emails, proof of the advisor's messages coordinating with the press. His father's eyes widened, disbelief turning to anger. "This is your evidence?" the elder Cole demanded. "Yes," Ethan said steadily. "And if protecting her costs me my title here, so be it. I will not lead a company that crushes people for being honest." Silence followed. The board exchanged glances. Finally, one director spoke. "He is right. This company was built on integrity. Somewhere along the way, we lost it." By the time the meeting ended, the advisor had resigned, and the scandal was publicly addressed. Ethan walked out of the building without looking back. That evening, Maya was at a small community art center, helping set up a youth exhibit. Her phone buzzed a notification from the company's official page. The statement was clear. Coal Industries apologizes to Miss Maya Tran. The rumors were false. Her work will be honored in an upcoming exhibition titled The Art of Renewal. Maya froze. Her eyes stung. On the screen was a photo of the exhibit hall, already displaying her sketches arranged and signed by Ethan himself. Her friend beside her whispered, "Is that really you?" Maya nodded slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. He kept his promise. For the first time in weeks, the ache in her chest softened into something warm, something like forgiveness. 1 week later, the grand gallery on Fifth Avenue was glowing with soft amber light. The exhibition banner read, "The Art of Maya Tran." Guests moved through the space, their voices quiet with admiration. Framed sketches lined the walls, each one of Maya's designs brought to life with precision and care. At the center stood the largest piece, the one titled The Art of Renewal, bathed in warm light. Maya stood at the edge of the room, her hands trembling slightly. She had spent years dreaming of this moment, yet it felt almost unreal. The crowd blurred around her until a familiar voice came from behind. "You finally made it," Ethan said softly. She turned. He looked different, simpler, humbler. No suit, no entourage, only a quiet confidence that came from peace. "I should say the same to you," she replied. "You disappeared after the announcement. I needed to step away," he said. "The company will be fine without me. It is time I start something new, something honest." Maya studied him, her voice gentler now. "You really did it, Ethan. You faced them all." "I had to," he said. "For you. For myself." She smiled faintly. "You did not have to prove anything." He shook his head. "Yes, I did. You once told me that forgiveness is something you live. I am still trying to live it." For a moment, neither spoke. Around them, soft music drifted through the hall. The guests admired her work, but it was Ethan's eyes that made her feel truly seen. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, worn piece of paper. It was the same sticky note, the one that read Team Maya and Ethan. Draft 1. He placed it in her hand. "This belongs here," he said. "It started everything." Maya laughed through the tears that filled her eyes. "You kept it all this time?" "Every day," he said. "It reminded me what truth looks like." Okay. She looked down at the note, then back at him. "So what happens now?" Ethan took a slow breath. "Now, we build something real. No lies, no titles, no fear. I do not know what that looks like yet, but I want to find out with you." Her heart softened. The hurt that had once seemed endless began to fade. "Then let us start again," she said quietly. They walked together toward the center of the gallery, stopping before the painting that bore her name. The crowd around them began to clap, cameras flashing, but for a moment, there was only stillness between them. Ethan turned to her, his voice low. "Maya Tran, will you let this be our new beginning?" She smiled, her eyes bright. "Yes, the best mistake we ever made." The room erupted in applause. Someone handed her a bouquet of white lilies, and for the first time in a long while, Maya felt light again. Outside, the city sparkled against the night sky. Through the glass doors of the gallery, their reflections stood side by side, framed by the words "Art of Renewal." Two people once divided by status now stood equal, proven by honesty, bound by kindness, and healed by love. It was not a fairy tale ending, but it was something better, real, earned, and beautifully imperfect. And as the lights dimmed behind them, Maya whispered to herself, "Some mistakes are meant to happen."